his wife and children and his brethren and his sisters and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple." Unquote. How's that for inconsistency? He required traits from others which he failed to exhibit himself. Isn't that incredible? The alleged foremost advocate of family values, which we're hearing so much about today, actually told people to hate their parents. "17th, in Matthew 5:39, Jesus said, quote, 'Resist not evil, but whoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other also,' a verse we've often heard." Unquote. Yet in Matthew 21:12-13, Jesus went into the temple of God, cast out all them that bought and sold in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers. And John 18:22-23 says, quote, "When he," it's talking about Jesus, "had spoken, one of the officers struck Jesus with the palm of his hand, saying, 'Answer thou the high priest so?' Jesus answered him, 'If I have spoken evil, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why are you smiting me?'" Unquote. Jesus was struck during his trial because he refused to turn the other cheek. But instead, he engaged in a debate with his prosecutors. In Matthew 10:32-33, he also failed to practice forgiveness by saying, quote, "Whoever denies me before men, him will I also deny before my Father who is in heaven." Unquote. That more closely resembles carrying a grudge than exercising forgiveness or turning the other cheek. Clearly, Jesus resisted and struck back. Our 18th and final reprehensible act by Jesus is found in Matthew 15:28. A believing woman with a sick child was told by Jesus, quote, "O woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt." And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. Unquote. Although superficially this was a kind act, Jesus only cured the child as a reward for the mother's faith, not out of any humane concern for the child's welfare. The 23rd verse shows that Jesus didn't respond to her pleas at the beginning, but only after he had kept her begging. Having covered many of the deeds of Jesus that range from questionable to deplorable, we can now concentrate on an even larger number of statements that range from doubtful to utterly false. 19th. One of the most ridiculous comments by Jesus is found in Mark 8:34, where he told some people, quote, "Whoever will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." Unquote. The key question that should come to the mind of anyone hearing this comment is, what cross? There's no cross to take up. Jesus hadn't died on the cross when this comment was made. The people to whom he was speaking would have had absolutely no idea what he was even talking about. How can you take up something that is yet to exist? This kind of comment can easily lead to the suspicion that the author of this verse, whoever that was, wrote it in a later period while the legend of Jesus was being created. While trying to put words into the mouth of Jesus, the author apparently didn't realize, he failed to realize, that he had created a comment that could only have been uttered after the event in question had occurred. I can't help but think of that famous proverb, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." 20th. In John 3:13, Jesus said, And no man has ascended up to heaven but he that came down from heaven, of course referring to himself, even the Son of Man who is in heaven, unquote. One need only read 2 Kings 2:11, which says Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven, to conclude that Jesus didn't read the Old Testament very carefully. Elijah went up into heaven long before Jesus went up into heaven. In fact, according to Hebrews 11:5 and Genesis 5:24, Enoch duplicated the antics of Elijah, and he also appears to have beaten Jesus to the pearly gates. In addition, Jesus said, even the Son of Man who is in heaven. How could he be in heaven when he's down here on earth speaking at that very moment? The 21st example provides one of the more blatant instances in which Jesus exposed his true character. In Matthew 26:18, he told his followers to, quote, go into the city into such a man and say to him, the Master saith, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house and with my disciples, unquote. Talk about rudeness, bad manners, and a callous disregard for the feelings of others. You just don't invite yourself into someone else's house. First, you receive an invitation. If Jesus can't display anything else, he should have at least felt an obligation to be civil. Moreover, referring to himself as the Master is rather arrogant, to say the least.